Hey everyone, Lisa Salvatore here. Today we're going to talk about the remainder of May and Gemini season, also the new moon in Gemini that takes place on May 30th. So I'm recording this video, it's May 22nd. The sun shifted into the sign of Gemini around 9:30, a little bit before, on the evening of May 20th. And now it is officially Gemini season, so happy birthday to all of the Geminis of the zodiac. For those that have asked this question, every year, the sun's entrance or ingress into the next sign is going to change by some minutes and even some hours. It's not going to always be the same, which is why some people that are born on May 20th are actually Taurus, and then some are Gemini. Same thing with the 21st. So again, that changes year to year by the way of the zodiacal motion. So this is why it's not always the same. I do get this question a lot, or when people say that they're born on the cusp. Yeah, you're born on the cusp, but you are one or the other. You're either like that 29-degree Taurus or that 0-degree of Gemini. So anyway, happy birthday to all the Geminis of the zodiac. It is your season. It is your time to shine. So we come off the earth energy of Taurus, which is usually more, grounded, more stabilizing, a little bit more calming. And we reflect a lot under Taurus energy. And then we get into Gemini. And Gemini energy, gotta love it. It brings with it a big buzz, okay? Gemini is ruled by the planet Mercury. Mercury is all about communication. It's all about the mind. And Mercury is now retrograde currently. So Gemini's ruler, Mercury, is retrograde. So there's definitely this energy of communication, issues that could crop up around these times, but still Gemini in and of itself is a very communicative energy. It's very expressive, it's very humorous, it's quick-witted, it's fun, it's lighthearted to an extent, but also it's not. So there's definitely a lot going on this Gemini season. But going right into it, its ruler Mercury is very much still retrograde. It will be retrograde until June 3rd, and then Mercury will station direct. So Mercury will station direct while still in Gemini season. And hopefully that'll bring in with it some clarity around any situations in your life that have needed some clarity. And just to give you a little more Gemini info, the tarot card that Gemini rules over is actually the Lovers. It's number 6 in the of the major arcana of the tarot. And the archetype of the Lovers, you would think upon first glance it's about love. But while it certainly can be, it's more about choice, okay? Gemini is under the element of air, and it's very mental. So it's really about the psyche. But when it comes to that tarot card, the archetype of the Lovers, it's about the soul and the psyche and how we alchemize and how we merge these energies and how we align them. And if what we truly desire is in alignment with what we think we deserve. And there's a lot of that going on around this time as well. A lot of people are at the precipice of big changes in their lives, and that's what the Lovers represents. This is like a very strong juncture point, where whatever action you take, or even a non-action, has a consequence here to change your trajectory in one way or the other. And so that's what the Lovers is here to remind us. Now, again, Gemini is a mental energy. It thinks things through. It's got tremendous power of the mind, of manifestation. And that's why I want to bring in the Magician tarot card, which is actually number 1 of the deck of the major arcana, because the Magician is ruled by Mercury. And Mercury is the planet that rules Gemini. So this is also a Gemini card. And the Magician has all of the tools at his disposal to manifest all of his desires. You can see on this card. He's got all of the elements and the infinity symbol above his head. So as a 1, this is all about manifestation and possibility. So there is a very strong energy right now about the power of the mind, how we harness that energy, how we speak to and of ourselves, and how our words and our thoughts have tremendous power and carry tremendous weight. And so we must remain mindful of that as we move along throughout the next couple of weeks, because the energy is intense. We've got Mars moving into Aries, lining up with Jupiter in Aries, which is this big burst of movement and fire energy, okay? And, Jupiter and Mars in Aries is a big deal. Remember, Jupiter expands everything, and it's at the beginning of Aries, so it's going to expand all of the Aries-like type things. And also, Aries is fire, okay? Now, Mars moving into Aries is a big shift as well, because Mars is in the height of his power while in the sign of Aries. He rules Aries. So again, there's a tremendous amount of strength and energy here with Mars's presence now in Aries. When Jupiter and Neptune were in Pisces, okay, we witnessed a lot of water energy, an overabundance of water energy as Jupiter and Neptune met up in Pisces, because Pisces is all about water. Jupiter expands things, right? And we actually did see a lot of flooding that took place, especially in Australia. They got really slammed with the flooding. And now as we get to the Mars and Jupiter conjunction, the Mars-Jupiter energy in Aries, well, what do we think we might see some more of? Maybe not even just metaphorically speaking, but literally speaking, would be fire, because Mars is the god of war and Aries is fire, and Jupiter is now in Aries, which is expansion. It's a big energy of expansion. So we may see more wildfires. In fact, there have been several going on right now in New Mexico. And if you you can even look at the database. This is where I get the information from, fireweatheravalanche.org. You can check that out to see all of the wildfires that are burning in the United States. So yeah, there's that energy too. There is the potential for that to be quite literal, but hopefully it won't be that much more literal. It's more about the fire within all of us, the fire that gets us going, that pushes us forward, that gives us confidence, that gives us courage. Gemini is a big energy, Aries is a big energy. So this time period does prove to be very active for most of us, for everybody. Also, obviously collectively speaking, that applies there as well. Okay, so let's talk about the new moon in Gemini. The new moon in Gemini takes place on May 30th around 7:30 in the morning, Eastern Standard Time. It's 9 degrees and 3 minutes of Gemini. So while everybody benefits from new moon energy and feels new moon energy, those with strong mutable energy, which is Gemini, Virgo, Pisces, and Sagittarius, specifically Gemini, and specifically between 7 and 12 degrees of any of your major points or placements in the mutable signs, you're going to feel this new moon energy and benefit from this new moon energy the strongest. Let me go ahead and pull up the chart for the new moon. So we've got May 30th, 7:31 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I have this set for New York, so you don't have to acknowledge the house placements here, but the degrees and all of that are still accurate. Okay, so the first thing we notice right here is we've got the sun and the moon conjunct each other at 9 degrees and 3 minutes, because that's how we have a new moon. It's when the sun and the moon align at the exact same point in the sky. And this brings in with it a new energy. It's a rebirth, so to speak. It's new initiative, it's fresh energy, it's a new start. Great time to get projects going. Now, what's really nice about this new moon is that it's not an eclipse, okay? So the past 2 lunations that we've had have been eclipses. On April 30th, we had our solar eclipse, new moon in Taurus, which was an eclipse, obviously. And then on May 16th, we had the lunar eclipse full moon that was in Scorpio. And so while this is not an eclipse, we are still very much feeling the vibrations and the energy of these past eclipses at this point. So it's not to say that you may not feel any intensity around this time. You probably will, but it does have an essence of more lighthearted energy surrounding it, and definitely more positive energy surrounding it as well. It's really a nice new moon for communicating with others and, speaking truth and getting down to facts and getting down to business and getting projects going again. It's a nice energy for that. Projects can really start to move under this new moon energy. This is definitely a new moon where we want to really harness the powers of our own mind, like I mentioned earlier with the Magician card, and we want to master our thinking, master our mind, because what we think of ourselves and what we speak to ourselves, even internally, that dialogue has power, okay? And you will find that each day you probably think a lot of the same thoughts. And so remember that our words have power, and the powers of manifestation are really quite strong right now. So we want to try to keep that as clean and clear, as concise as possible as to what it is that we truly want or desire in our reality. The thing is with this energy is there's a lot of mental gymnastics that take place under Gemini to begin with. Now, factor in the point that Mercury, Gemini's ruling planet, is still retrograde at the time of this new moon and about to actually station direct on June 3rd. And so when the planets get ready to reverse direction again, they are at the height of their power. They do tend to give their last final moments and shenanigans one more go around. And so let's remember that Mercury can be a trickster in that respect and can really serve to mess us up in some way or have us fumble. So we just want to watch out for that we don't get too big for our britches under this energy, because things probably feel quite positive personally, in some area of your life, especially with all of this Jupiter energy, Jupiter and Mars and Aries, there's just this essence of like, oh my gosh, things feel like they're moving again. Things feel good. And yes, that very well may be, but we want to just be careful because Mercury is still here in this mix, providing us with some shenanigans, which we can only help but laugh at times. So let's just remember that Mercury is still very much retrograde at this new moon and at the height of his power as he's about to station direct on June 3rd. So let's just keep ourselves in the realm of positive thinking, but also realistic positive thinking. Okay, so this new moon here at 9 degrees and 3 minutes of Gemini is actually harmonizing really nicely with this Mars-Jupiter conjunction, okay, over here in Aries. So they're forming a sextile aspect, which is very helpful. It's a nice little blessing. It just makes things have a nice ease and flow about them. And so this Mars-Jupiter conjunction is working really nicely with this new moon. Again, putting the emphasis on the new, bringing in the new, bringing things to fruition. But I always issue this warning under this energy is that there is a potential to be hot-headed. And again, words can cut. Now, words can also heal, right? But they can cut. So we have to just we need to remain mindful of that every step of the way as we build up to this new moon. Now, Gemini is an air sign and Mercury rules Gemini, and Mercury is all about, communication and information and the media and also social media. And Saturn is over here at 25 degrees of Aquarius in a square aspect to Mercury retrograde over here. So with Saturn squaring Mercury, remember, Saturn likes to remind us where we cannot push ahead and where we need to stop, or where we're going to come up against some blockages, and where and why and how we need to revise something, which Mercury retrograde is really good at doing for us as well. So here we may find some issues around information coming through the media, through social media, maybe even more censorship that's taking place. I know there's been a ton of that. But this is definitely the Saturn square Mercury is like that reality check energy. So with all the goodness here, it's really important to keep your feet on the ground, have clay feet, and remember that we must think everything through, even when it feels like the way is totally clear. Let's just make sure that we are crossing all of our T's and dotting all of our I's to avoid any potential mishaps or misfortunes at this time. Another big thing that comes up for me that I want to mention, but also the astrology and this time period speaks to, is identity theft. That is a big deal right now. This kind of ties in here with the Saturn Mercury square, with Mercury being retrograde and this Gemini energy, because remember, Gemini is all about information, and Mercury and Gemini have a trickster side to them, right? There's also this essence of manipulation that can be happening, especially when it comes to online forums. Be very, very careful about where you're putting your personal information, where you're putting your credit cards. Even on Instagram and on Facebook, people are cloning, or they're making fake accounts of other people's work. And it's happened to me several times, and it's very annoying because they're stealing your stuff. They're stealing your links and things of that nature. And so you just want to be careful that you're not putting your personal information. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't be putting your credit card info and paying strangers through the internet. More than ever now, it's really important to note that the identity theft component is really high right now. People are very crafty with how they get your information. Be very careful about that, especially around this new moon. There's a lot of trolling that's going on, a lot of stealing of identity. Now, I have to mention Uranus as always, because he's always in the background here, very present and kind of giving us some unforeseen changes here and there along the way, which hopefully bring about good. And something else that's really interesting and comes up continuously these last few weeks is the revealing of information, especially through our dream space, is so strong right now. Intuitive info coming in so strongly. And it's interesting too, because around this new moon, you see Mercury over here at 26 degrees and 37 minutes of Taurus in a supportive aspect to Neptune over here at 25 degrees of Pisces. So Mercury sextiling Neptune, very intuitive psychic energy here. Now remember, Mercury is the psychopump. Mercury can traverse all levels of consciousness to bring forth information. So why would Mercury lining up with Neptune, the most psychic space where he can be, in the sign of Pisces, the most psychic sign that he can be in, and and Taurus, who's quite intuitive. There's also this big energy here of things coming to light intuitively, being revealed. Furthering that, Mercury is also in a trine to Pluto over here at 28 degrees, 23 minutes of Capricorn, furthering this revealing of information from deep, dark spaces. stuff that wants and needs to come out to push us forward and to help us along on our journey here. And Mercury's also close, well, kind of close to Uranus over here. It's 10 degrees off, but still, because of everything else that's going on with the outer planets, we're going to count that Mercury and Uranus, Uranus is bringing forward those jolts of information too. Uranus is the higher mind, where Mercury is the lower mind. So, when these two work in tandem, a lot comes up, a lot's revealed. Keep a journal. I always say this, keep your phone next to don't keep it next to your head, but keep it close by, so when you wake up, if you've had some dreams, you're quickly able to voice record them or jot them down so that you can look back at them later, because there's a lot of symbolism coming through the dream space right now, lots of intuitive energy. Even people that are not really dreamers have been dreaming very colorfully these past couple of months. This is a really good energy for creative writing, intuitive work, detective work of any kind. Just there's a lot here that's very revealing, and there's a lot of positive energy surrounding this new moon. I kind of like it, even with all the Mercury shenanigans that are occurring. But on the world scale, we could see a lot of hot-headed, fiery fighter energy. And so it's very important to remain very, very mindful and conscious of your surroundings at all times. Okay, another thing that I wanted to mention, and I did mention this also in my lunar eclipse video, when the full moon lunar eclipse that happened in Scorpio on May 16th, which we are still under the feeling of that energy. I'll link that video below as well. But for that lunar eclipse, the sun was conjunct fixed star Algol. And Algol, long story short, represents something that could be gruesome. The whole mythology of Algol is that it's the constellation that contains Medusa's decapitated head, okay? So there's something here about gruesome, crime, just not really a nice energy. It's referred to as the demon star, okay? And I bring this up because at the time of this new moon, Mercury is conjunct Algol. And again, I mentioned this in my last video, that Mercury is actually going to station direct on Algol as well. So I'm not saying this means that anything gruesome is going to happen or big crimes are going to be committed, and it certainly can be, but I think this is more along the sense of think off with their head, okay? Think people in positions of power that have been doing wrong, that have been serving injustice. That's going to be coming to light. That's going to be coming to a head. So, no pun intended. So there's probably this turning point in some situation that we're going to see play out publicly, having to do with someone in authority, if not more than one, around the time that Mercury stations, because, and maybe a little bit before, around this new moon, there may be the revealing of some serious information and the reversal of some serious information, okay? Pluto is also trining Mercury, and like I always say with Pluto and Mercury likes to talk, okay? And when in combination to Pluto, especially by a supportive aspect, Mercury feels more confident and Mercury feels more comfortable telling deep truths, because Pluto's putting his finger on that hot button saying, tell the truth, tell the story. Who cares how outlandish it is? Who cares if it's going to land them in hot water? We need to tell the truth. And so there's that instigation of Pluto on Mercury, retrograde. And now Mercury is conjunct Algol, fixed star Algol, which is, again, it could represent destruction and despair in some form or fashion. And I really feel that this has something to do with the removal of authority in some capacity. Remember, fixed star Algol is all about decapitation. It doesn't have to be literal, but again, maybe nothing happens. I don't know. I just find these things and I feel them, and I've been watching this whole Algol situation since the lunar eclipse, and I'm quite fascinated with it, so I've been studying it a lot. Anyway, maybe it's nothing, and hopefully it won't be, but I think that it's safe to say, with the way that the world is going, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility to see some sort of removal of authority in some capacity. And again, the Pluto-Mercury trine, telling truths coming out, things being revealed. Oh, one more thing I want to mention in the chart that I forgot. Okay, so again, I have this chart set for New York, so it's not going to look the same for you by house placement, so don't worry about that. But something that came to me intuitively as I was looking at this chart is that, so we have the sun and the moon here, the new moon, at 9 degrees of Gemini in the 12th house, and opposite, the exact opposite here is the 6th house, the 12th and 6th house axis. We have an asteroid called Pandora here. And the 12th and 6th houses are the axis of healing, okay? Health and healing. Gemini is an air sign. Mercury is retrograde. Sometimes things are this literal, but obviously COVID is not gone, okay? There's tons of cases popping up all over the place. And I know personally a lot of people that have flown and come back sick, or I'm not saying if you fly you're gonna get sick, but be very careful because it's still very much out there and it's spreading. And we've got Jupiter and Mars coming up against each other in Aries, expansion and air travel, Mercury, Gemini, air travel, the new moon opposite Pandora in the health and healing axis. Pandora's box may open up. And I don't know, just a few days ago, we heard about some new virus that's been discovered in, parts of the US. And so again, there's other things that are coming out. So it's not to fearmonger anybody, but it's just to remain mindful of your surroundings. Be very cautious, careful, and conscious. Things are still not right, or they may not ever be again. It's just the way things are right now. We have to still move with caution. I don't mean move in fear, but move with necessary caution, because things are not, we're not like out of the woods with any of this, okay? And I don't think, again, that it takes an intuitive or a psychic to tell you that. It's the way of the world right now. But anyway, that jumped out at me when I looked at the chart. Let me just get a tarot card for the new moon. Justice. Okay, so this is the card of universal karmic law. So this is what we reap, we shall sow. This is about doing what's correct and what's right and what's fair, and about justice being served, and that what's karmically right and just is what will be. And so I think this is a good message for all of us to keep in mind, and it's also a major arcana. So it's a strong energy of this time period that we are living under, which basically says that the truth will set us free, and that ultimately, whether we agree with it or not, what is felt to be right and good and justice for all is what is going to be served. Now, in your own personal life, it's important to remember, and I talked about this in my weekly, which you can also grab here on my YouTube, but I mentioned this about relationships, about the karmic component to relationships and situations, things coming back around karmically, for closure or for to be reopened and renewed, but that's going to be personal for everyone. But there's this element of, what comes up must come down. We all have to face the consequences of our actions and of our inactions, okay? Because they do come back around. So don't hide your head in the sand when these things happen. Lean into it and access what the golden information is there for you, because it is likely very karmic. No, it is very karmic by nature for you. Take really good care of yourselves. I will be back soon with another video. I hope you have a good new moon. Maybe do a vision board around this one. We're out of the eclipses for the most part, so it is okay to work with it. But again, remain very, very mindful of your words and your thoughts, okay? Take care, guys.